have a question for the rest of America. Does anyone even care about Nebraska? Does anyone even care? What about Nebraska? What about Nebraska? Does anyone not care about Nebraska? Why should they? Coming from somebody who lives in Omaha, Nebraska, us blue voters, we did our part, okay? Including Lincoln. And what's so funny is I keep seeing all these farmers showing up on my For You page now because I live in Nebraska and that's all I'm going to see. What did y'all think was going to happen? I have a question for the rest of America. Does anyone even care about Nebraska? Does anyone even care?
Do you care about Nebraska? Because I have a feeling you voted for this. I mean, Nebraskans don't even care about Nebraska. Let me ask you another question. Who exactly did you think were going to work in the fields and in the farms after all of the regular day laborers, people of color, are no longer there anymore? Who did you think was going to do it? Did you think that there was just this army of white workers ready to get into those farms and pick all the vegetables? Now people like you who voted for this to happen are upset that something's affecting you, because what people like you tend to really vote for, it's not the economy. It's because you want to express racism and bigotry, and he was the only way that you could do that. But now it's affecting you. All those farms are disappearing, including that 300-year-old farm. And you want to know why nobody's upset at that? It's because you guys did it to yourself. You'd rather vote to have your racism easily spread across the United States instead of thinking about yourself, because you always vote against your own interest, don't you? And isn't it just like you? You voted to hurt other people, but now when it's starting to hurt you, you want us to feel sympathetic for you.
In this video, the state of Nebraska effed around and now they are finding out bitterly. So let's keep watching the following videos, then we'll come back here and discuss further about it. But before we watch the videos, if you haven't yet liked this video, kindly like the video and also subscribe to the channel. Let's watch the videos together.
You need to admit that you voted the way you did because you thought it would affect other people in a negative way. You weren't really listening to what he was saying, because he said this from the start. If you have a farm, if you are a farmer, you had to know that a lot of your workforce were undocumented migrants. You had to know that. I don't see what other result would have came out of this if this is what you wanted.
I have a question for the rest of America. Does anyone even care about Nebraska?
Hey girl, as a Texan from a cattle ranching family now living in Florida, we did. We cared about y'all so much. That's why we told y'all for so long. Gosh, I've been screaming it for, I don't know, since at least, the Tea Party. 08, 09, we broke it down, Project 2025, over and over. Y'all didn't listen. So now my only responses is first, bless your fucking heart. Second of all, this is what you voted for. So they're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs.
So the big question on TikTok right now is, does anybody care about Nebraska? Super quick. Is this y'all? Don't piss me off. Don't piss me off this early. So first of all, no one gives a fuck that that's happening to you. You deserve it. Second of all, next time that there is an election, let's not be so simple-minded. Especially when the man that you're voting for literally fucking told you he would cut federal funding for your farms. He would deport all of your workers, and now you want us to give a fuck? I'm sorry, bitch. He literally said it in his campaign. Like, do your fucking homework. The worst part, educated individuals like myself voted for you, but guess what? Your vote counts just as much as mine, even though you don't know what the fuck you're doing.
Does anybody care about Nebraska? That's the question that's going around TikTok right now, and to that, I respond with two questions. Did Nebraska care about anybody else? And does Nebraska care about Nebraska? Because, you see, God helps those who help themselves. And when you Nebraskans walked into the voting booth and overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump to be president, and now you're feeling the effects of that, this isn't I told you so. This is an FAFO. And I know there are Nebraskans out there that voted for Kamala Harris and did not fall into the trap of Donald Trump. Unfortunately, there were not enough of you. And now the rumors, and I'm having a hard time substantiating some of this, but the vibe that's going around is that Nebraska basically looks to be bankrupt in about 6 months because of the undocumented migrants that are being deported, or just the fact that undocumented migrants make up a large portion of their state and workforce on the farms, and they're not showing up to work because they're now afraid they're going to be deported. So Nebraskans, especially farmers in Nebraska, did you think any further than the front of your face?
What's going on, y'all? My topic for today is, yes, we care about Nebraska. Before I start, it's just my opinion. If you don't like what I'm about to say, there's no need for you to get mad at me and try to cancel me. But y'all seen the videos of people asking, do y'all care about Nebraska? You know, Nebraska is on the edge of being bankrupt, you know, because their farm industry is heavily affected now that ICE has been going after their workers, you know? So, to answer the question, yes, people care about Nebraska. People say mean and hurtful things about Nebraska. Those same people care. Here's where it comes down to. In order for us to unite, I feel like it's going to take, in this instance, it's going to take the citizens of Nebraska to dig deep and answer one basic question. Why did you vote the way you did? And this question has to be answered in order for us to go forward. We need to understand the whys. What led people down this road? That way we can be aware and they will not go down this road again. What were the key words that were said to you? Were there words like, we're going to get rid of woke? Were there that? Was it, we're going to protect American jobs? What was the slogan that was said to you that said, yep, that's what Nebraska needs? When they said they're going after the migrants, the illegal migrants, and if you all are farmers, then you know who worked for you. You know. I feel like there needs to be some admittance. So, like I said, people aren't hating Nebraska. And that's just one instance, because there's many states that this could fit into that category. But people aren't hateful to Nebraskans. People want to love on Nebraskans. You know what I'm saying? But Nebraskans have to answer those questions first. You have to at least answer those questions to yourself. Why did you vote for them? You got to answer that for yourself, so you won't be tricked again. Thank you for your time. Out.
I cannot believe that my family farm and my home state of Nebraska are going to be flat broke within 6 months. I cannot believe this is happening. I cannot believe that the undocumented workers who basically drive our entire agricultural economy just got up and left. They just left. Why? Because we voted for Trump? Because we voted to have them torn from their homes in the middle of the night by ICE, because we wanted to see their families ripped apart because we don't like brown people, so they just abandoned us in our hour of need before we were able to replace them with, I don't know, like white teenagers or something like that. You know, like before we were able to identify and employ an entire demographic of people who's willing to make less than minimum wage for terrible working conditions. I can't believe this is happening. If only somebody had told us that this was a possibility. If only somebody like Kamala Harris or Tim Walz or Bernie Sanders or any of the liberal politicians, Jasmine Crockett, Gavin Newsom from California, or, you know, almost every major media outlet, or every economist in the nation, or all of the liberals. If only somebody had told us that undocumented workers are absolutely vital to the existence of our agricultural industry. If only somebody had said that 1,000 times, day after fucking day. If only somebody had said, hey, they're not replaceable because white American teenagers do not want to work for slave labor wages in the fields in the hot sun. They are not going to be replaceable. If only someone had said that repeatedly through a megaphone for literally a year. If only somebody had said that using your vote as a stick with which to beat undocumented minorities might be a bad idea. Because we've come to rely on them, haven't we? Yeah. If only someone had said that. Maybe someone would give a shit, you know? Good luck, though.
I hear we have to talk about that Does Anybody Care About Nebraska video. When I recorded that video, it was just a random thought I had while I was driving around. It wasn't in any sort of political reference to anything. It was just a random thought of, I wonder if anyone's like thinking about Nebraska. And their response was overwhelmingly, no, not at all. Not for a damn second. Which, fair enough, we're kind of in the middle of nowhere and there's not a lot going on here. I think what I didn't expect and what became like very surprising to me, because I'm not a political content creator, the comments got very, very political and hateful. And I just want to make one thing extremely clear. This is not a Trump hat. Just because it's red does not mean it's a Trump hat. This is a Nebraska Cornhuskers hat. It's for our football team and sports. Yay, go Nebraska. I do not support the whole like Trump, MAGA, whatever's happening there, and it is very concerning. It is, but that's not something that I talk about online. So just making it perfectly clear, I do not endorse that. I do not support that, okay? I think it's a divisive system, two feathers of the same bird, and it wants us to be divisive and hateful.
I did a video and then I had to mute it because I misspoke. Gosh, I hate when you do that, but let's talk about why Nebraska's broke. So, Governor Pillen, who is our current governor, in 2023 shoved through a tax cut to the wealthy and the corporations in the state of Nebraska, which is now leading to a significant revenue shortfall for the state, $433 million annually. But let's talk about the little bit of history on Pillen. So Pete Ricketts was the previous governor. He's now our state senator. But Pete Ricketts is a billionaire. His brother owns Ameritrade, also a billionaire. So a billionaire family with lots of money to run campaigns. And that's why he was so successful. But then he endorsed Pillen and sent money to Pillen's campaign. But Pillen's also wealthy. So what they did with this tax cut was they said they could make up the shortfalls from it using the C-19 money that was given to the state, which they did for a couple of years, but now that's gone. And so now the state is facing shortages, $433 million to be exact annually. The average person in Nebraska only makes $74,000, so an individual only makes about half of that. It is not a very high salary game here. And therefore, we're not going to make up that shortfall in our salary income taxes. So what they're doing is they're trying to up our property values. So to give you an example, I'll use my own home. I bought the home in 2017. It's a very small home, 1,000 square feet. It had $1,400 annually for taxes for the property. And now it has $2,800. So that means that they've doubled our property values taxation, which has led to a lot of Nebraskans being very unhappy. But why don't Democrats be more successful here? Well, the issue is they don't have the money for the campaigns. So the ads are in our face constantly, and rural people don't quite understand what they're voting for, because just like our current president, it's full of lies and twisted information. And they usually attack the other side. They find even the smallest little thing and capitalize on it and say the other person's bad for this reason. But what is also a problem is that we can't retain people after they graduate from college. There's not a significant salary level to keep them in the state, so they leave and go elsewhere. We're not keeping them around, and that shortfall is just getting worse and worse because it's an aging population. So those of us that stay here, for the most part, are older, or they're young people with no money that can't leave the state. So that shortage is going to just keep getting worse and worse. They have promised tax cuts to the property values, but they have yet done anything. They've said it for 3 years now, and they still haven't done anything about it. So that $3 billion tax cut to the corporations and the wealthy is the same playbook that our president wants to do. So our nation's going to be facing the same kind of shortfall. And this means that they have to cut programs to the poor and the weak and the sick and the old. And that's what's happening in Nebraska. It's going to happen at the national level, and we have that to look forward to at the national level. But that's why Nebraska's going broke.
As someone who was born and raised in Nebraska and who works in public policy, nonprofit sector in Nebraska, I can provide a little bit of context as to what's going on with the state, with the budget, why everybody's freaking out. So in our state constitution, there's a provision that says you cannot go into a deficit. You have to have a balanced budget. That has never really been a problem. We've always had a budget surplus. Even 3 to 4 years ago, we had a budget surplus of like $1 billion. And now, under Pillen, we have completely blown through all that extra money, and there's a $432 million deficit of the budget. The other issue that's happening in Nebraska right now, well, there's two really, is we've essentially run the migrant workforce out of the state. It's a red state. We've had ICE raids in Nebraska before at meat packing plants, farms, etc. It's nothing really new to the state. But the other factor that's going into that with the lost revenue is that property taxes are outrageous. Nebraska is one of the highest tax states in the country. I just recently left and went to a blue state. I thought for sure taxes were going to be worse. I'm actually taking home more money now than I was in Nebraska. So that's another thing. People have promised tax relief. We've robbed Peter to pay Paul, and now it's time to pay the bill, and there's no money left. So this legislature session might be really long. There's going to be a lot of cuts. I'm not sure what will happen. But if you want to stay up to date on what's happening in Nebraska, I highly suggest the Nebraska Examiner or the Flatwater Free Press.
Welcome back. So in this video, the state of Nebraska effed around, and now they are finding out bitterly. This white woman took to TikTok and asked a question: does anyone care about Nebraska? Now, Nebraska is predominantly a farming state in the United States of America, and then majority of the people who work on the farms in Nebraska are particularly illegal immigrants or undocumented immigrants. So these are the people who work so hard on the farms in order to fill all these grocery stores in the United States of America. And majority of them do not even make up the minimum wage. So they work very tirelessly on the farms in Nebraska. Now, Donald Trump promised in his campaign tour that he was going to embark on mass deportation. That is, he's going to deport immigrants and undocumented immigrants back to their country of origin. Now, the state of Nebraska, knowing fully well the policy of Donald Trump, still went ahead and voted for Donald Trump in order for him to win power. Now, when you look at the political map of Nebraska, almost everywhere voted for Donald Trump, with the exception of 2 cities, Omaha and Lincoln, which voted blue. Every other area voted red. So all these farmers voted in favor of Donald Trump. Why did they vote in favor of Donald Trump? So they ended up shooting themselves in the foot. They acted against their own interests. You are a farmer living in Nebraska. You have employed immigrants to work on your farm for you, and then you pay them, some of them just even below the minimum wage. And then a president is coming in that is going to deport all these immigrants. You still go ahead to vote for this president. And when he comes in and deport all these immigrants, you are now crying because your farm is not getting the labor force that they used to get in order for you to produce on that high scale. Now, there is a very big vacuum that has been created on the farms in Nebraska because these undocumented immigrants are not showing up on the farms any longer. Some of them have been deported, whereas others are also in hiding. They might have traveled and left the place for a different state, or probably they may even be in the state, but they are always indoors. They are not even going out so that ICE could pick them up and deport them. So they are not showing up on the farms. And this is going a long way to hurting the farmers, the produce that the farmers will be able to produce. So these farmers voted red, and this has been the outcome. This is the FAFO season, and the farmers in Nebraska are finding it out bitterly. Let me know what you also think about this video in the comment section below, and don't forget to share this video with your friends and your family on other social media platforms like WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, and other social media platforms. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Just click the subscribe button down here. Click on the subscribe button. Click also on the notification bell, and I'd like to see you again in my next video.